Today we're going to be talking about Void and my world Eldora, which I've been working on for like the past few years, quite a lot, and over the past 10 prior years I've been developing the lore and everything around it. So that being said, I want to just show you guys what I've been working on regardless of WoW or all that stuff, and want to get your take on everything that I'm doing. That being said, let us begin. Starting off, let's just show you the world map so it's easier to just explain everything away. This is Eldora, the world in which you actually see. Now, it is quite reminiscent of WoW, let's be honest. There's two main continents. However, you do have one main continent which is a key focal point at this moment in time. This is Aronia. Now, Aronia is basically for the Aronian Empire, and it's made out of three regions: Skulvar, Erondir, and Aronda. And then you've got Genora as one of the little islands, Lilyfoot, Valandir of the dwarves, Eldora, which is named after it. There are sub areas like Shaldara and all that stuff, and then you've got the Baraxic, who live in the Cuthix. You've got the archipelago of Rondir, which is literally the molten remains of a great dragon, brackets Drake. And then you've got the contested continent of Dalandor, which was ruled in the past by the Quilnar, and that is subsequently the Quilnari Desert. And then we've got Outlook's Bay over in this area here, with the Morosung Mountains, along with the Valan Plains, the Kestrian Wastes, and you've got where the Iceborne hail from is the Snowmane Fjord, with Sindressa at the top over there as a little sub-island that's just off the coast of Dalandor, as well as the Faded Isles and the island of Karesh. These are the islands and or continents of the entire world, and over the past few years I've been developing stuff on Void, which is the actual series in which it's actually comprised of. Now, a lot of you may know, if you've been watching me for a while, I made Void, Edge of Existence, on Steam. This was the first game that I actually did, and if you can tell, I actually spent a lot of money on this. I spent way too much money on this, because I got all of the main characters, like the bosses and the main character, all custom built for this game. So the main character you're playing, Andril, which is the main focal character, he literally is part of the actual game and the entire world as a whole. And with Void, you've got essences, which is the magic system, and he has to basically resurrect himself from this because he dies in the Battle of the Thorns, and as such he gets thrown into Zeros, which is the world of undeath, which is like purgatory basically. It's before your soul goes into absolute oblivion, and he's given the choice whether to take on the trials to regain his soul shards and become rebirthed into the world of Eldora by literally gathering all the soul shards, defeat all the bosses, and then resurrect and complete the story. I even managed to get a bit of the manga done in that time for the cinematics, because quite frank, I'm not made of money. I can't do full-fledged cinematics for a game if it's your first game ever. Now, as you can see all of the gameplay that's going along with this, and all my basic designs for building out the game. And Void released back in January 2nd, 2023. Now, I was very happy with this. The game came out. There was a ton of bugs. Obviously, it's your first game. There's going to be a load of issues. However, all of the lore characters are in there, and I was very lucky to get one of literally my best man, Raoul. His other half, Cassie, is a trained actress, and she did the voice of Duressa, which is the second boss in the game, and she managed to do that pretty dang flawlessly with that. So I'm really happy with Void Edge of Existence game. That built out quite nicely. And then I followed on with other different types of things, like I built out Alone. If we go over towards my website, we've got a couple of games, which is Alone and Void. I need to add a couple of more of this, but they aren't actually necessarily attached to this world. Alone was just like a little mini project that I wanted to do, where they are my actual hands in the actual thing. but I wanted to see if I could make a 2D game in a 3D world and just do it as a basic shooter. Realistically, I should put that game for free. I'll have to figure out how to do that in the future. And then I built on to other different types of things, such as just refining the website and everything, and which brought me out to bringing out this lovely book as of last year, which is Void War of Wrath, which talks about Valdarian in the Aronian Empire. He's part of the Imperial Strike Force, or the Imperial Guard. They have to basically, they settle disputes or that Sentinels cannot. So with that being said, I brought out Void War of Wrath on ebook. So what else have I been working on? Well, I've been actually working on a couple of different things when it comes towards the game as a whole. Now, I wanted to actually bring out the actual world. So if I was looking at the world map, what did I want to bring out into the real world? And I was looking at the map and I was like, okay, well, I want people to see the world which I'm talking about, that is my world. So I've got the world map. That cost me £261 to get done by a cartographer, for someone that basically does this as a little side project besides WoW. So what I did here was I've been working on Eldora, and if you've been looking on my second channel, the second channel is basically null at this moment in time, but I actually got the world map, brought it into the game, and I have created the continent of Aronia into this actual world. So at this moment in time, we have the Arunda region already done. And Arunda is the farming capital of the Aronian Empire. So they're all in the senses of the word, they provide all the food for the empire. Aronda, which is at the bottom, which will be the main capital city where the Court of Silver is, and the Emperor at that current time, they will be based here. And you've got Skulvar, where all the warriors basically are trained, and that's where the might of the force is. Now, as you can see, it's just one continent at this moment in time, because building out the entire world map onto one level is a little bit stupid when it comes towards game design type-esque things, because the more things you've got going on in the world, the more laggy it's going to become, and the less FPS. You get my point. So continent-wise, that's other things that I've been working on. So when it comes towards the game as a whole, I'm going to actually fire up the game of Eldora at this moment in time, and we can have a look at the game as a whole. So as you load in towards the game, you have your character creation, where you create your character and then he loads into the game. It's pretty self-explanatory. I've also added a devlog just so I can post stuff in and then close that down if I need to. So a devlog built into the actual game, where you can just read old devlogs and everything, where the Discord link and everything is. And so people can just get an idea of how the game's progressing and all that stuff. So if we actually bump into the world, I actually did this on a secondary map. So this isn't the actual Erundir map. This is literally Erundir and then empty zones either side of it. But it's just a copy. So you are loaded in, but there's no creatures there to kill you, because this is your actual character which will show on the screen, which I thought was quite cool. If your character can show up on the screen, you can see them, they're wearing all their armor, they're stylized the way you want, and you can see them in game, and the world's actually still moving around. You're just not going to get attacked by mobs if you're just standing still in a static position. So if we go into play the said game, I actually added this where it actually gives you lore tidbits while the game is loading in with the world map in the background. Obviously, I'm not a UX designer, I am just a programmer, so a lot of this is quite bare bones basic at this moment in time, so it's not refined or anything. But as you can see, if I just move myself up a little bit, you can see the actual game as a whole while it's being recorded. I actually got the game, I actually got one of my designers to actually design the UI part, because I wanted a very minimalistic thing that literally your sword will show up on your UI and your spell. So if you've got a spell equipped, you will have that. One spell, one weapon, which equals a specific attack. So if you're using a two-handed, it will do a different animation, so to speak. And then we've got different types of characters and or creatures running around in the world as a whole. You spawn into Talandar village with everything, and at this moment in time we do have certain areas and that to actually go into. So character's already loaded in with all of his gear. He's got his tooltips to actually produce his gear, and you can move it over and have a nice little look at your stuff. So you've got your foot guard shield, you've got your training swords. Training sword needs to be nerfed because I only increased the damage so I did not die while I was doing some testing recently. But you've got the tooltips to see what you've got equipped, what you haven't got equipped, what's actually in your bag and everything, and then you just close it down with everything to that effect. You do have other quests like a standardized quest giver, and then you've got your lovely little quests. You've got hover overs to show you what item you're going to get and everything, and you can accept a specific quest and all that stuff. Obviously I already have all of the items because I was doing some testing with everything, but we're currently in Erundir. Now the thing that of which the only real thing for this is, yeah, I do have quests, but I was thinking about it and I don't really want to go for stupid amounts of quests. So at the beginning there is a decent amount of quests just to get you started on how to use things, and obviously you've got certain characters, like I even put in a couple of people from the Discord as NPCs. We also have quite a few people on the Discord as NPCs, like Lieutenant Arwen. He's right there, he's doing his thing, and he's got the quest for the spell effect for the basic heal on there. So you've got your heal, restorative magic, plus 30 health, it costs 20 essence, which is your mana basically. So if we go out into the real world, we can actually see the region of Erundir. I wanted to make this game quite big, mainly due in part that the world that I'm trying to depict is incredibly big as well. So the grand continent of Eronia is massive, and you in the background, just at the top over here, you can see the Skyward Towers in the city of Eru, which is the Erundir capital city, because back in the day they were different regions, different kingdoms, and then they joined together at the attack of Rondir. You can see spiders in the background in the forest walking around, and you can fight them if you so wished. But realistically, we can see multiple different things with the world. You've got the port over there that's built out, and overall I don't want you to be able to see the entire region. It just makes sense for Erundir. You've got the port of Marith, you've got everything to that effect, you've got your character, and you'll start off in Erundir as your main character. Now you've got male and female characters, but you can only be human because at the end of the day I'm not made of money. I would like you to be able to start off as a bipedal dragonage, a Charlie, but I ain't got the money for that. So I'll just have to go with the assets that I have already in order to build out the game that I want. The good thing about this is I already have a lot of the core characters that got custom made for Void, which I can reuse using the same stylized art structure for that. So Andril, the main character from Void Edge of Existence, will make an appearance in this game, because I'm showing the entire world of Void and Aldora, because at the end of the day I want to actually show the literal world, because that's what I've been wanting to do. So if I press leave game, I can just leave the game and you can play around with settings and everything. Same type of mechanics as WoW. But if we jump over here, we've got the entire city already built out. We've got a load of stuff actually already built out. And you've got the port of Marith, which leads over to the Skulvar region. And then you've got Warden's Gate, which the textures are a bit janky at the moment because I need to rebuild a load of stuff, because I completely gutted a load of things back in the day with everything. And then you've got other places such as just over here, which is Skrull's Outpost, which is one of the main outposts that goes in there. And I don't know why that little boat is hidden underneath there. So that is 𝐸𝐿, which is built out. And I would love to build this into a full-fledged open world game. This is the main thing I want to do. I just want to bring the world to life and you play in it. I don't want to depict you with quests or anything, or something crazy with quests. And I want to, ideally, I want to build out professions in this, because I would love a carpentry profession. Like, every action is actually worth something. So if you want to make a bow, you use your carpentry profession to make the actual bow part. But with your string, for your bowstring, you have to use your tailoring in order to make a bowstring. And then, so you've actually put some effort into your crafting of items, and then they'll be higher up. Because different types of items have different types of ranks, and you've got bound items and unbound items. You've got artifacts, legendaries, all that stuff, yada yada. But generally speaking, I would like to put some instances, like 1 instance per region. So as you can see, Aronda right there, the capital city, but there will be a small instance there. There'll be a small instance here. And you've got multiple different types of creatures when you're fighting them and everything to that effect. So you'll be fighting with the spiders. Now, the combat system is weird, I'll be honest with you, because it is proximity based. It's not tab target like WoW. And if we jump in towards the actual game once again, I'll show you what I mean. So if we jump over here and we run over towards a lovely little spider right now, you'll see that we're going to grab some aggro, because their aggro radiuses are quite high at the moment. You've got a spider coming in, and you just press your 1 to attack, and obviously he's quite strong, and you just literally proximity based to attack, and then you just kill it, and then you 3 to loot it at the moment, and you'll get some loot or not with that effect, and it will show up on your screen. There is other ways, like obviously the aggro radiuses for these spiders are quite high, and they average on different types of creatures and everything, and then once they're dead, you just pick them up. But they're used for a specific quest. Your questing system will only show up, which is pressing 4 at the moment, which will only show up the actual quest that you have in your log with that thing. But realistically, I will put professions in a separate window here. When it comes towards professions and everything, I want to add the interaction thing of having the table. So I would like to take that from WoW. So you actually have to go to a blacksmith's anvil in order to craft stuff. It just makes sense and makes it more like you've actually put in the work to make your armor, make your gear, and make sure that you've got everything. And every creature really does drop certain specific things. But the main reason for the actual game as a whole is literally just bring the world alive so I can show you. So like if I'm talking about Void or Eldora as a whole, and I'm like, oh yeah, in Rondir, the Great Molten Drake literally attacked this first, literally burnt everything to a cinder and destroyed the High Lord at the time. You know what region I'm talking about because it's there. Literally, I've made it so you can go see it. And obviously there'll be like the memorials, the graves and all that stuff to go inside with that. And that's what I'm doing at the moment, is just building out an entire world that you can live in, not realistically go about. There's no stupidly crazy quest line. Like if you want to craft a sword, you will have to go if you want to make a dragon brood sword, for instance, you have to get hold of dragon blood. So where are the dragons? You have to hunt that down to quench your sword in dragon blood and stuff like that. And I really like that aspect of building that into the game and everything as a whole. A very simple mechanics is my idea. Make it simple, make it thing. So proximity based attacking system just makes sense to me. So you just run up to the creature, you attack it. Obviously, if I press attack right now, it won't do jack because you have nothing to attack. Same with your spells and everything to that effect. So that's how I'm looking at it at this moment in time. A very basic system, but because the main goal is just to show you the entire world of Eldora. That's the main system. Which leads me on to the other things which I've been developing with Void. Because Void is this entire thing. Like we talked about the games, the the book that I released for it. And if I pull up a load of things right now, I can just open up this lovely document in my computer, which is the Void manga. I've been working on the Void manga since the Void game, Edge of Existence, because these 3 pages were used in the cinematic to start off Andrew's storyline. And I've been slowly investing in this every single time the illustrator is done with another one, and it's just gone from a little cinematic into a full-fledged frigging comic where it just builds out the in-character storyline of Andrew. And it's going to take at least another 1.5 years in order for it to actually be fully finished as an actual book. But I want to build upon Andrew's storyline because a central figure just makes sense. And just running through all these different types of comic type-esque things, I really like it, where all of these characters just develop and you can see who they actually are and how they're actually building out as a character as a whole. And I really like that picture right there where he's just slicing through everything. I really like that aspect. It's like those goblins, imps, are just completely getting decimated at this moment in time. And that's something I'm really liking because I can go into the game that I've made of Void, Edge of Existence, and I can take screenshots and say, this is what it actually looks like, and follow the steps of the game because it was a narrative, and just show them exactly what you were facing at that time. Like, at the moment, you're against Ozboroth, and he's doing it so well when it comes towards that character. Like, let me move that across. He's just like, crap. I love that part where he's just literally coming out of the panel. And Ozboroth obviously has a massive backstory. At the moment, he's just bitten a goblin in half. And yeah, that goblin is not having a good day, if so to speak. But at the end of the day, we've got more things coming along. I've just sent off for the other illustration for that. And building out upon Void as a whole, like, I want to build upon the stories. This is something that I'm actually quite invested in, and I think has the potential to be better. Like, I want to... It's like building out the world, but actually showing you the world at the exact same time. Like, I can write all the stories, because I have all the stories. They're already written down in note form and everything, and like half-finished stories. I've just finished the Rise of the Empire book, which I need to make a cover for, which details the Aronian Empire actually forming against the great Rondir, the Molten Drake, and how he died and then brought forth the Ashali race and everything to that effect. And I was just like, yes, this is the story I wanted to depict. Like, because I wrote this short story of War of Wrath, and I was like, no, you need to show Aronia, because there's a massive timeline of like the Primordial Age, you've got the Elemental Age, where all of the races are pretty much created, and then you've got the Nestric Age, which is like the Innovation Age, for instance, like the Industrial Revolution for that, in some senses of the word, because the magic system is different. And then you've got the Age of Fire, and then you've got your current age, which you're in right now, which is the Age of War, and that is literally Andrew's storyline. And if I actually bring it up, we can go into my spreadsheet of Kernel, and it's just like I can go into towards Void books, and these are all the books that are half done or like nearly finished, which is like the Origins book, the 𝐆𝐀𝐿 book, the Fall of Cardoon, which is Karthix, and the Baraxic, which are basically elves which are somewhat green and subterranean. They're pretty cool. I think they're pretty cool because they're my creation, obviously. But their cities are underground, and it's the Nestra, the dragon of Nestra, which was a light dragon. She obviously died, but brought forth that race of the Baraxic, and her bones are literal light, so their cities can be lit under the ground, and I would love to build that into the game as a whole. And Ultheralon brought forth the orcs because he thinks everything's disgusting. He's a void dragon, and then he literally just twisted and corrupted any creature he came across to make different types of orcs. And the main orcs come from Karesh, and there are ones in the Morosong Mountains over in Dalandor. And then you've got the fall of the Quilnari Empire, the Kraken's Wake, the Rise of the Empire book, which is nearly done because I've nearly finished the book. And then you've got Haldrin, because Haldrin is just like, he's got the dwarven name, but he's a human, and he literally dies standing. I couldn't think of any form of a cooler way of dying. He literally turns himself and every other creature attacking Valandir to stone, and there is a place in there called Haldrin's Stand, where he did his last stand against all of the orcs that were attacking Valandir. And you've got the Iceborn. The Iceborn, I have a really cool story for that, which I think is cool. And then you've got Karesh, who is he's a creature of legend and mythos. He is the embodiment of true fear or nightmares, and he literally will just make you go crazy, like, open your eyes, and just starts talking to you. And that story I want to talk about, where an entire Platalion is inside of the Aura Forest, which is in Genora, and they all start losing their minds. Their eyes begin to glaze over. Their eyes are literally cracking at the seams. They can see the light. And then literally Karzesh is talking to them, where they literally just break, and Lieutenant Jacobs, which is the person in command of that battalion, literally has to fight his way out of all of his own comrades, and he ends up we'll carry on that story a bit later, but you get my point. And then you've got the Battle of Carthix, where Andrew's first deployment came out. The Battle of Shades, where Osboroth, that guy who bit that goblin, yeah, boy. And then that's got Zeth in it as well, who is from the Void Edge of Existence. And then you've got the Battle of Thorns, where Andrew actually dies, and then you go into the Void Edge of Existence game. You've got the Void Edge of Existence manga right there, but you've also got the story of Sentinel straight after. Well, what happens once he's resurrected? Like, he's now a Shadow Essence user and an Earth Essence user, because humans and dwarves are natural Earth Essence users. What's going to happen? You've just killed one of your allies because they killed you, and all that stuff. And I'm just like, okay. So that is something I'm building on. Is just like, I want to write the books and build out the world as a whole. Like, I want you to be able to play it like you play the literal game. Game mechanics very simple, all that stuff. But I think it's more the world buildings part that I really like, because I get to see all of the people and creatures and all that stuff get brought to life, so to speak, where it's just like, you've got the Aronian continent right there, and I just got to build out the Kelthoron and the Iron Hold inside of Skulvar. Then you've got to make the Aru city right to the south, and then Genora, where you've got the monastery of all of the mages of Aura, and then you've got Lilyfoot Island, where you can get the fastest mount in the entire game. But there's going to be some caveats to that one. But you get my point. Like, I would like to be able to show people the entire world that's in my goddamn head. And so that's what I've been working on, is quite a lot of stuff when it comes towards the Void as a whole. And I've been a bit weird on it recently, because I've just been overthinking about pretty much everything, and I just want to know your thoughts on the actual game as a whole. Like, what do you think? What do you think of the premise, the world, and all that stuff? There's no force to anything. Like, you can do whatever you want in this world. You're basically just getting given the world and its rules, and you just live in that world. You can go on your own adventure. There'll be rare elites, instances, and all that stuff, but you're not going to be forced to do stuff you don't want, so to speak. Like, if you don't give an actual damn about, like, going into things and exploring the world, like, you're going to get rewarded for exploration more than just doing stuff in a linear fashion. Like, at the beginning, there's the quest just to get you into the gameplay, but realistically, you find those recipes or those crafts in order to awaken the Eternals, or literally embodiment yourself and become and like change your physical structure, so you could like tap into life essence and then turn yourself into something. Like, for instance, you could go to Sundressa and just turn yourself into a firefox, for instance. Sounds cool. And see those things play out, and I really like that aspect of the game. But I don't want to oversell it, because obviously I've got to build it. But realistically, in an ideal world, I would like to build out the entire continent of Aronia, and then either put out a demo or early access just to see what people think, and then go from there for that instance. So what do you think on Void or Aldora? I would like to know your thoughts down below. Other than that, have an awesome rest of your day, and I shall see you in the next video, which will be soon.